generating income on $1 million. This is a response to the YouTube channel Chris Invests, and more specifically, one of his most popular videos on generating income, how much income you can expect from $1 million. And this is really relevant because it has mostly to do with achieving financial independence. In my short response here, my short response to Chris Invests, to this video, is that I think it is a very good video overall, and I think that you should definitely check out his channel and watch his stuff because he has lots of cool educational content on his channel. But make sure that you stay to the end of this video so you can see my final overall response to this video that we're going to be talking about today. So the first thing that I want to point out is something kind of good and bad that I found in this video. So around the 25-second mark in the video, Chris says something to the extent of, just because someone is a millionaire, it doesn't necessarily mean they are rich or even financially independent. Now, I agree with one of those statements, and I very strongly disagree with one of those statements. And so the one that I disagree with is that just because someone is a millionaire doesn't necessarily mean they are rich. I strongly disagree with that because if we look at the actual global wealth, in the entire world that we live in, this tiny little world that we live in order to be the top 1%, you barely need to have over $1 million. And so if you do have $1 million, slightly over $1 million, you are in the top 1% of the entire global world. Out of all the billions of people that are on this world, you are in the top 1% by having $1 million of net worth. So by any definition, you are incredibly rich. So having $1 million, even though it might not seem like a lot of money, like being rich in the United States, on a global scale, you are incredibly rich by having $1 million of net worth. And so yes, having $1 million definitely does make you rich. But then he goes on to say, or even financially independent. And that is where I strongly agree. So yes, just because you have $1 million definitely does not mean that you are financially independent. Now, certainly, I think that most of us, a lot of people can be financially independent on $1 million, but if your consumption is too high, then you're definitely not going to probably be considered financially independent on $1 million, at least not for very long. Now, if you use a 4% safe withdrawal rule just as a general rule of thumb, then that would give you about $40,000 per year. And now I think that you can definitely survive, definitely thrive on $40,000 per year in many parts of the country, but in other parts, you definitely cannot. A few years back, I actually did make a video kind of similar to this. I'll put up the screenshot of it so you can look for it later if you really want to watch that, because I think it was pretty funny on my mindset back then, and still, I still think that you definitely can retire with $1 million, even less. And again, it's going to depend on your consumption. But going on to the video, there is some definitely good stuff. Then again, what I really wanted to touch on here is another really good thing that he mentioned in this video is about at the 2-minute and 40-second mark. So in this part, he says, in theory, you could withdraw the gains, but that method isn't sustainable. And what he was referring to is that, like, if you had $1 million and you can theoretically, if you were going to withdraw the actual gains from that, let's say you made a 10% gain that year, then you can just withdraw that 10% gain, right? Well, not really. So that in that case, it would be $100,000. So your $1 million portfolio, if it made 10% that year, then if you withdrew the gains, then you would be withdrawing $100,000. Now that, in theory, it sounds like it would work, right? But it wouldn't work, especially because of what's known as inflation. So basically, over time, your money becomes worth less and less. So $100,000 today is worth less than $100,000 20 years ago was. Probably substantially less, because inflation is going to compound on itself and work against you and your spending power. And that's why we have that number, that 4% safe withdrawal rule, that general rule of thumb, because even if you expect your portfolio to be making, 8%, that 8% is going to be after inflation. And so you're going to actually have to take inflation away from that 8%. Let's say you have a 3% average inflation, then your real return is going to be, that 8% minus 3%, which is going to be closer to than 5%, and so that is going to be your inflation adjusted return at 5%. And then if you're withdrawing 4% theoretically, then you're going to have a 1% buffer here and there. Now your investments aren't going to be like a smooth ride up, but that is kind of like the general idea of it if you're trying to put it into simple concepts. If you were to withdraw just your gains, I think you would definitely run out of money a lot quicker than you're planning on, if you're planning on having a very long early retirement or a regular retirement in that case. And then as his video moves on, I want to point out another thing that I kind of disagreed with here, and that is at around the 4-minute and 8-second mark. Chris says if you plan on retiring in your 30s or 40s, 4% might be too much. This is definitely hard to completely disagree with, because he says it might be too much, and that definitely might be true. Anything might be true. We have no idea what the future is going to hold. If we are investing and we consistently get very low returns, or the market is consistently down for many years, then yes, that is true. That 4% is going to be too much. If you're retiring in your 30s and 40s, and if you expect to live till you're, let's say, 80 years old, that's going to be a 40 or 50 year retirement timeline that you're going to have. But if we look back historically, if we are trying to use that as our as our guiding light, then 4% is definitely not too much over even long periods of time. So I ran some calculations. I love using these like F.I.R.E calculators that are available online, and it uses historical data. These F.I.R.E calculators definitely say otherwise. A 4% safe withdrawal rule, historically at least, is going to last you a very long time, and you have a very high probability that you are going to not run out of money. For example, one F.I.R.E calculator that I like to use is, I've kind of recently discovered this, was from Engaging Data. So Engaging Data has their own F.I.R.E calculator on there, and if I put a 4% withdrawal rule on $1 million portfolio for 60 years, we have a 90% chance of success using all those inputs that you can see on the screen. Again, similarly with F.I.R.E Sim, another F.I.R.E calculator that I love to use and love to mess around with all the time, if I put in the same similar data on there for 60 years again, we have an 87% chance of success. But keep in mind, this means that you never adjust your spending downwards for any kind of market downturns, even if you were going through the Great Depression or something crazy like that. This also assumes that you increase your spending with inflation every single year. So no matter what, whether you need to increase your spending or not, you're going to increase it. This assumes that. It also assumes that you literally never make another penny from any kind of other income source, or never withdraw any less than what you started with. And so these are kind of actually worst case scenarios. And so even with those worst case scenarios, you're getting in the high 80s% probability of never running out of money in a 60-year time period. And so I think that even if you are retiring in your 30s and 40s, 4% in most circumstances realistically is definitely going to be good enough. Now, of course, I can't promise anything. I can't guarantee anything like that. That does have a lot of assumptions behind it. But me personally, I would be safe with using a 4% safe withdrawal rule, especially when you factor in those other things. Like if you stay flexible, if the market goes down and you reduce your spending, then your odds of success are going to go up. If you expect to get Social Security, let's say at 65 or 67 or 70 years old, then your odds are going to go up. Again, I ran those scenarios before without using any Social Security, any expected Social Security, and so that's definitely going to make your odds go up as well. And then if you ever earn another penny in your lifetime, even if you earn, let's say, $5,000 per year, just doing some random things that generate income, which is very likely that you're going to do that, then again, your odds go up because you reduce your amount that you're going to be drawing from your portfolio during those years. And so that's why I really think that 4% is still very valid today. But if you're liking this video, by the way, so far, please make sure you like it and give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out, and I really do appreciate it. Now let's get back into Chris's video. So another good thing that I want to point out here is around the 7-minute and 46-second mark. So Chris says something to the extent of, it's a good idea to be conservative when projecting your finances during retirement. I definitely agree with that statement, and I think it's very important to be conservative when projecting your finances, not just for retirement, for pretty much everything that you do. And so yes, it's definitely very important to be conservative with your numbers, and that's why I think that a lot of us use the 8% when we're projecting out our our long-term gains in the stock market, even though if we do actually look back, it's been closer to 10% over very long periods of time. But again, that's just kind of build in a little bit of conservatism when we're doing our estimates. But overall, I really like this video that Chris put out. I think that it is really cool, his teaching style, and I really like the animations. I definitely, judging by the amount of views on his video, that a lot of other people like those animations too, because it makes everything so easy to understand. And so if you are not already, make sure that you check out Chris' channel at Chris Invests. He has lots of really great educational content on there, and he makes everything really easy to understand, and a lot of it is applicable to financial independence. So you'll definitely find something on there that you will like. But on the other hand, referring specifically to this video that we're talking about here, I just wish that Chris would have taken a little bit harder of a stance when he was making some of his statements there. So it seemed like a lot of his statements were kind of, dancing around the concepts. They're introducing the concepts, and I understand why that is important, but he didn't really take any kind of hard stances on some things. And sometimes you really do have to take that hard stance, even if not everyone is going to agree with you. And so that's what I hope to do on this channel as well. And by the way, one thing that is really applicable and really important for retiring on like $1 million or any amount for that matter is knowing the 95% rule. And I made a video on the 95% rule of retirement, and it basically has to do with, adjusting and being flexible with your spending. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure that you watch that video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.